Many times when you hear the word Kamige, people tend to think of story-heavy visual novels like Muramasa, Fate Stay Night, Baldur's Sky, etc. But what if I told you that Moege is the real Kamige of visual novels? I'm going to use this video to convince any non-believers that this is the true best genre of visual novel medium. And before I continue, I want to give a huge shout out to Jrrr for editing the video for me. So first of all, you know what you're getting into when reading Moege. If you were to read a story-heavy visual novel completely blind, there's a chance the story will have a lot of genre buildup or foreshadowing before getting to what it's really about. So for example, if you went into Umineko blind, you'd likely think this is just some visual novel drama version of Crazy Rich Asians. The Muv-Luv trilogy is one of the most egregious and well-known examples, with you basically having to go through at least 10 to 20 hours before you get to the good stuff. Hell, even something like Supremacy straight up has a chapter 1 that's completely different from the rest of the visual novel. But with Moege, the vast majority of the time, what you see is what you get. A light-hearted romance story for the most part, usually with 4 to 5 girls to choose from, with a route system that mostly has the same tone as the common route. Next off, Moege tends to have pretty consistently good art, emphasis on consistent. With story visual novels, usually only the highest budget ones tend to get the best art, and everything else is kinda hit or miss, maybe there's some unique art here and there. With Moege, you're pretty much guaranteed cute, bright art fitting for waifu dating, and the best way to entice you to buying the visual novel. Naturally, there are some Moege that define the absolute best of VN art. For example, stuff like Yuzusoft or SME. But naturally, Yuzusoft and SME's newer stuff is definitely some of the prettiest art I personally have ever seen. But overall, Moege overall have the best art overall in terms of sprites and CGs. This next point is a debunker. I would say Moege actually tends to have a surprising variety of subgenres. Most people tend to think that Moege are just pure, lighthearted slice-of-life romance, and I guess technically they're not wrong. However, even in the Moege genre, there is plenty of subgenre variety. Like for example, you have favorite visual novels like Hoshizora no Momoria or Iratori Dori no Sekai, where there's definitely quite a bit of melodrama. There's also Moege with stuff like Majikoi, Sankaku Renai, or Making Lovers, where the comedy is extremely goofy and quite a bit different from like your usual harem romance comedy. And then there's stuff like If My Heart Had Wings or Marshmallow All the Way Home, which has a lot more focus on very sweet, wholesome storytelling. Meanwhile, something like a Princess Evangel is kind of more what you expect of like the typical harem romance comedy style of storytelling. There's just a lot more variety in Moege than you'd expect, at least in my opinion. Now we're getting to the real reason you come into Moege: good waifu quality and variety. Usually in story visual novels, there tends to be like 1, maybe 2 heroines that stick out a lot more compared to the others, especially ones that get true routes. The cool thing about Moege in general, they try to cater almost every heroine, or every dateable heroine at least, to be as likable for romance to somebody. Sure, even in Moege, there are the typical Moege personality types like tsunderes, Genki girls, shy girls, childhood friends, etc. But only in Moege will you be more likely to find stuff like romanceable cat girls or quirky weirdos, like what I personally like. And that's just going off personality. Naturally, Moege visual novels are more likely to make the most attractive versions of various body types for different heroines. Going off the previous point I just made, Moege has some pretty great wish fulfillment scenarios to complement the good waifus. So while I talked about a heroine's general personalities and looks, this point is more about general scenarios. While even story visual novels have some degree of romance, Moege are the ones that definitely focus the most on the happily ever after ideal romance. Even in Moege that have some degree of melodrama, it's almost a guarantee there's going to be some kind of romantic good ending. But the good thing is, many of these moege do have a solid romantic relationship development, so that makes it not just feel like you're just going through a shallow experience. So if you want that good wish fulfillment with a good romantic life, definitely find your ideal moege, because that'll be a great place to view them. This is probably going to be a spicy take, but I tend to like vanilla H scenes more than Nukige ones. The problem I have with Nukige is that they tend to not really have that good art. Sure, they might have better technical stuff related to the H scenes, like more menu options and such, but if, I can't enjoy the art, how am I supposed to like the H scenes? Moege has almost guaranteed vanilla H scenes, while Nukige sometimes has a chance of having darker themes like NTR, oh god, that I could think of. In addition to Moege having better art, I think many of them, especially these days, have pretty good enough technical menu stuff going on for it to make the H scenes work. Like, you have just enough settings to customize your experience. And some Moege H scenes go pretty long, like something like Marmalade visual novels, or even a Majikoi series. So who needs Nukige for long H scenes? There's almost no reason to read a Nukige over a Moege, especially for vanilla H scenes, mostly because you have better art, better romance, and better stories to complement the H scenes. Finally, and ultimately, the main reason for reading Moege in my eyes is that this ultimately makes you feel good. When you're reading story visual novels, there are plenty of good moments, but many times you have to go through a lot of build-up just to get to the good parts, many times throughout the story. Thankfully, with Moege, you generally have an idea of what to expect within like the first 15 to 30 minutes of reading. The tone of Moege is set early extremely well, so if there's like a particular heroine or humor style you'll like, you'll know very quickly. With Moege, at least the ones I read, they tend to be the ones that interest me after a little bit of research, and I generally have a smile on my face the vast majority of the time. Maybe a heroine or two I might dislike from time to time though. Generally, when I go into Moege, I go in knowing that I'm going to have a happy, fun time going in, and most likely when I'm all done with all the routes. And there you have it. This is why Moege is the true Kamige of visual novels. If you haven't been convinced, then clearly you just haven't read the right Moege yet. Or you just haven't really opened your mind. Anyway, if you have any thoughts about this video, your favorite or least favorite Moege, if you even read any, or if you want any recommendations, feel free to leave a comment below.